Elena clutched the edge of her workstation as the building trembled around her. Through the observation dome, she watched in horror as crystalline beams sliced through New York's skyline with surgical precision. The collector ships hovered like massive obsidian jellyfish, their surfaces rippling with iridescent patterns that seemed to communicate with each other. "Dr. Reyes, we need to evacuate now." Security Chief Pittel grabbed her arm, pulling her away from the mesmerizing destruction outside. "My data," Elena protested, frantically downloading files to her portable drive. "Everything I've recorded about their signal patterns. We can't lose it." The floor bucked beneath them as a nearby building collapsed. Dust and debris clouded the observation dome's pristine surface. The download completed with a soft chime that seemed absurdly gentle amid the chaos. 30 seconds until structural failure, announced the calm, automated voice of the building's eye. "Please proceed to emergency evacuation routes." Elena followed Potil through corridors already tilting at unnatural angles. Scientists and diplomats streamed toward the emergency stairwells, their faces masks of disbelief and terror. Just yesterday, they had been preparing first contact protocols. Now they ran for their lives. They burst into the underground parking structure where a military transport waited. The vehicle was already crowded with shell-shocked personnel from the diplomatic corps. Elena squeezed in as the doors sealed shut and the transport lurched forward, accelerating through the emergency tunnel system beneath the city. "Does anyone know what they want?" asked a young diplomat, her voice cracking with strain. "Resources," replied a silver-haired man Elena recognized as Dr. Kapoor from the Xenobiology Division. Their message was clear. They see Earth as nothing but materials to harvest. Through the transport's reinforced windows, Elena caught glimpses of the tunnels as they sped past. At each junction, desperate civilians tried to flag them down, but the driver maintained course under strict orders. Elena's stomach twisted with guilt. "We should stop. There's room for more," she said. "Can't," the driver replied tersely. "Orders are to get key scientific personnel to the Rocky Mountain facility. You're all considered essential to understanding and fighting these things." The transport emerged from the tunnel onto an elevated highway leading out of the city. From this vantage point, Elena had a clear view of Manhattan. Collector ships positioned themselves at precise intervals, their harvesting beams creating a geometric pattern of destruction. It wasn't random chaos, it was methodical, efficient extraction. A brilliant flash of light momentarily blinded everyone in the transport. When Elena's vision cleared, she saw a massive collector vessel hovering directly over what had been the United Nations building. Where the iconic structure had stood, a perfect hemispherical crater now smoldered. "They knew exactly where to hit us," whispered Dr. Kapoor. "How could they possibly know our command structures?" Elena's scientific mind raced despite her fear. "They've been watching us. That signal I detected, it wasn't first contact. It was the end of an observation period." The transport crossed the George Washington Bridge just as collector beams began systematically severing its suspension cables. They barely made it across before the massive structure collapsed into the Hudson River. As they sped westward, Elena clutched her data drive. The signal patterns she'd recorded might hold clues to the collector's communication methods. If humans were to have any chance against these methodical invaders, they needed to understand them. And somehow, someway, find a weakness. Military jets screamed overhead, moving to engage the alien vessels. Elena watched as they launched missiles at the nearest collector ship. The weapons detonated harmlessly against shimmering energy fields. In response, the alien vessel released dozens of smaller craft that moved with impossible speed, intercepting the jets and reducing them to falling debris within seconds. "Conventional weapons are useless," murmured Elena. "We need a different approach entirely." As the transport raced toward the Rockies and the secret facility buried within them, Elena made a silent promise to herself and to humanity. These beings, these collectors, might have technology centuries beyond Earth's understanding, but humans possessed something they clearly didn't expect: adaptability. Throughout human history, people had faced seemingly insurmountable odds and survived through ingenuity and determination. This would be humanity's greatest test, but Elena Reyes refused to accept that it would be humanity's final chapter. The makeshift laboratory had once been a university chemistry department basement. Now it served as Elena's workshop, illuminated by salvaged LEDs that cast harsh shadows across tables covered with dismantled alien technology. She adjusted her microscope, studying the crystalline components from a collector communication device. Any progress? Captain Marcus Chen entered, his face bearing fresh scars from their last encounter with a collector patrol. Despite his injuries, he moved with the fluid grace of someone who had adapted to constant danger. Elena rubbed her tired eyes. Their technology operates on principles we barely understand. It's like they're using quantum entanglement for instant communication, but with biological components integrated throughout. Marcus placed a ration pack beside her. You need to eat. Can't fight aliens on an empty stomach. She smiled weakly and opened the package. 3 months of military rations had made her nostalgic for even the worst cafeteria food. We're planning another raid tomorrow, Marcus said, unfolding a hand-drawn map across an empty section of table. The collectors have established a new processing center here, near the old financial district. Their pattern suggests they'll be moving harvested materials to their orbital facility on a 72-hour cycle. Elena studied the map, noting the precise patrol routes Marcus had marked. They never deviate from these paths. Not by more than 2 meters. It's uncanny, like they're following invisible tracks. She tapped her fingers thoughtfully against the table, almost like program behavior rather than tactical decisions. What if their hive mind operates more like distributed computing than actual consciousness? Their planning session was interrupted by Sophia Diaz, their communications specialist. You both need to see this, she said, leading them to the command center, a repurposed lecture hall filled with salvaged equipment. On a cracked monitor, grainy footage showed a collector patrol in Sao Paulo being ambushed by resistance fighters. The aliens moved in perfect formation until someone in the resistance team began playing music through portable speakers. The collectors' movements immediately became erratic, their coordination visibly disrupted. That's the 3rd confirmed report of sound affecting their behavior, Sophia explained. Different groups noticed it independently. Elena leaned closer to the screen. It's not just any sound, it's unpredictable patterns. Music, especially jazz and certain classical compositions, seems most effective. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Are you suggesting we fight an advanced alien species with jazz? I'm suggesting their neural network has evolved to process predictable patterns efficiently. Human music, especially improvised music, creates patterns their systems struggle to analyze in real time. Elena rushed back to her lab and returned with a modified radio transmitter. I've been experimenting with broadcasting various frequencies. What if we combine this with your tactical approach? The next morning, their team moved through the ruins of Boston with practiced stealth. Elena carried her modified transmitter, now configured to broadcast a mix of John Coltrane and random number sequences on frequencies matching the collector's communication bands. They positioned themselves around an intersection where collector drones transported gleaming containers of processed materials. Marcus gave the signal, and Elena activated her device. The effect was immediate and astonishing. The collector drones stopped mid-motion, their fluid movements becoming jerky and uncoordinated. The larger Guardian units turned in confused circles, their weapon systems powering up and down erratically. Now, Marcus signaled, and the resistance fighters emerged from cover. For the first time in 3 months of fighting, they engaged the aliens without taking casualties. The disoriented collectors couldn't coordinate their defense. One by one, they were disabled by precisely placed EMP charges. As the team secured the alien technology and prepared to retreat, Elena noticed something remarkable. She had been humming nervously along with the jazz broadcast, and each time she changed pitch or rhythm, the nearest disabled collector twitched in response. It's not just the music, She whispered, realization dawning. It's us. It's human unpredictability. Our brains don't work like theirs. Marcus looked at her questioningly as they hurried back toward their base, valuable alien technology in Tau. Their neural network evolved for efficiency and predictability. Elena explained, excitement breaking through her exhaustion. But human minds thrive on creativity, on improvisation. We're pattern seekers who also love to break patterns. She clutched the alien communication device they captured. This might be the first genuine advantage we found. The collectors don't just struggle with our tactics, they struggle with how we think. As they descended into the safety of their underground base, Elena felt the first spark of genuine hope since the invasion began. Humanity's greatest strength against these hyper-logical invaders might not be found in matching their technology, but in embracing the beautiful chaos of human thought. The abandoned Vienna Konzerthaus still retained its grandeur despite the war-torn city surrounding it. Resistance fighters positioned themselves among ornate balconies and behind velvet curtains frayed by time and neglect. Elena adjusted the neural amplifier on her temple, a cobbled-together device created from collector technology and human ingenuity. "Are you certain this will work?" Marcus whispered, checking his modified pulse rifle. The weapon had been augmented with components from captured collector weapons, making it one of the few human armaments that could penetrate their liquid metal armor. Elena nodded, though uncertainty flickered across her face. In theory, yes. Zara's calculations suggest 30 synchronized human neural patterns should create enough interference to temporarily paralyze their communication network. From her position at the grand piano on stage, 17-year-old Zara Washington gave them a confident thumbs-up. The former chess prodigy had proven to be their secret weapon. Her analytical mind could predict collector patterns with uncanny accuracy. "They're approaching from the east," came Sophia's voice through their earpieces. 3 patrol units, standard formation. Zara began to play Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, her fingers dancing across the keys with practiced precision. The music echoed through the concert hall's perfect acoustics, a haunting melody that seemed incongruous with their desperate mission. "Everyone activate your amplifiers on my mark," Elena instructed. Around the hall, 30 resistance fighters reached for the devices attached to their temples. "Remember, think unpredictable thoughts. Jazz improvisation. Abstract art. Nonsense poetry. Anything nonlinear." Through the broken windows, they watched as the collector patrol approached. The aliens moved with mechanical precision, their 3-meter frames gliding rather than walking, liquid metal armor rippling like mercury under the afternoon sun. 3, 2, 1, mark. Elena activated her own amplifier. The sensation was immediate and disorienting. A pressure behind her eyes as the device amplified her neural patterns and projected them outward. Around the hall, the other fighters experienced the same effect. Some winced, others gasped, but all maintained concentration on generating chaotic, unpredictable thought patterns. Outside, the effect on the collectors was dramatic. The patrol stopped abruptly, their fluid movements becoming jerky and uncoordinated. Several collided with each other, while others began moving in circles or standing completely still. "It's working." Marcus signaled the assault team. "Move in, keep your amplifiers active." Resistance fighters swarmed from the concert hall, surrounding the confused aliens. For once, they had the upper hand. The collector's weapon systems powered up and down randomly, unable to target effectively. Their communication attempts manifested as bursts of discordant tones and fragmentary holographic displays. Elena approached one immobilized collector, fascination overriding caution. Its armor swirled with conflicting patterns, like a computer trying to run too many programs simultaneously. The crystalline components of its communication array pulsed erratically, emitting occasional sparks. "They're beautiful, in a way," she murmured, studying the complex being. Advanced evolution shaped by perfect efficiency, until they encountered human chaos. Less admiring, more capturing. Marcus called, directing teams to secure the aliens with specialized containment fields developed from their own technology. As the resistance fighters worked, Zura continued playing, transitioning seamlessly from Beethoven to improvised jazz. The disorientation effect on the collectors intensified with each unpredictable note. "We need to move quickly," Alina warned, checking a handheld scanner. "Their main network will detect the disruption and send reinforcements." The team worked with practiced efficiency, securing weapons, communication devices, and most valuable of all, a high-ranking collector drone. Unlike the others, this one bore distinctive markings on its armor and carried what appeared to be a command module. As they prepared to retreat, a high-pitched whine filled the air. Alina looked up to see dozens of fiery streaks cutting through the atmosphere. "That's not the reinforcements I expected," she said, her voice tight with concern. Zara joined them, her young face serious as she studied the phenomenon. "Those aren't standard collector ships. The entry pattern is different, more direct, less efficient. Something's changed." Marcus ordered an immediate evacuation. The captured technology and collector drone quickly loaded onto their vehicles. As they pulled away from the concert hall, the first of the new vessels descended through the clouds, larger and more angular than the familiar collector ships, with pulsing red energy signatures instead of the usual blue. "Whatever we did here got their attention," Alina said, studying the new arrivals through binoculars. "We've been fighting their drones, but I think we just summoned something higher up their chain of command." Zara's analytical mind was already working on the problem. If their hierarchy responds to threats this way, it means we've been classified as more dangerous than initially assessed. That's good news and bad news. "How is that good news?" Marcus asked as their convoy raced through the ruined streets of Vienna. Zara smiled, her eyes bright with the thrill of discovery. "It means they're afraid of us." The Collector Command Center resembled a massive cathedral of alien technology. Organic-looking support structures curved overhead like fossilized ribs, while holographic displays hovered in midair, their alien script flowing like liquid mathematics. Marcus led his strike team through the eerily silent corridors, following Alina's directions through their secure comms. The main data repository should be 2 junctions ahead. Alina's voice came through, accompanied by the soft tap of her fingers on keyboards. Back at their hidden base, she monitored their progress through hijacked collector surveillance systems. Zara's translation algorithm is detecting high-priority data clusters in that section. Marcus signaled his team to halt as a patrol of collector drones passed a nearby intersection. They pressed themselves against the walls, neural disruptors temporarily deactivated to avoid detection. The aliens moved with their characteristic fluid precision, unaware of the human intruders. "They still don't know we're here," whispered Kai, their tech specialist. "The loop we installed in their security system is holding." Once the patrol passed, they moved quickly to the data repository, a vast chamber dominated by a crystalline structure that pulsed with colored light. Data streams flowed visibly through transparent conduits, converging at a central pillar. "Incredible," breathed Kai. "Their entire network physically manifests. The architecture itself is a computer." "Focus," Marcus reminded him. "We have 8 minutes before the security loop resets." Kai approached the central pillar, attaching a modified interface device Zora had designed. The crystal responded immediately, its pulsing quickening as human technology made contact with alien systems. "I'm in," Kai reported, downloading tactical data now. As information flowed into their storage device, holographic displays activated around them. The team found themselves surrounded by images of planets, hundreds of them, being systematically harvested by collector fleets. "Are these records?" asked Rivera, their weapons specialist. "Not records. Trophies," Marcus realized, studying the displays. "They're cataloging their conquests." A particular hologram expanded as if responding to their attention. It showed Earth, surrounded by collector ships in precise formation. Mathematical equations flowed around the image, calculations of resources to be extracted. Kai checked his device. Download at 60%. Alina, are you seeing this? Every bit, she replied, her voice tight. These aren't just invasion plans. They're consumption schedules. Earth is being processed like all these other worlds. Another hologram activated, showing a massive vessel unlike any collector ship they'd encountered. It resembled a small moon, its surface covered with intricate technological structures. The Genesis vessel, Alina whispered. According to these calculations, it will reach Earth in 3 months. Kai finished, reading the alien mathematics. Whatever it does, it completes their harvesting process. A sudden alarm blared through the facility, the sound painfully dissonant to human ears. The team's neural disruptors automatically activated in response, creating a protective field of human thought patterns. The security loop collapsed. Alina warned, "You need to extract now." Marcus grabbed the data core Kai had been downloading to. Did we get enough? 87%. It'll have to do. They moved toward their exit route, but halted at an unsettling sight. At the chamber's entrance stood 3 collectors unlike any they'd encountered before. These were smaller, their armor not smooth but textured with intricate patterns. Most disturbingly, they moved independently of each other, showing individual tactical awareness instead of hive-mind coordination. They've adapted, Marcus realized, raising his weapon. Everyone, full neural disruption now. The team amplified their disruptors to maximum. The effect on the new collectors was minimal. They staggered slightly but continued advancing. Fall back. Alternative exit route, Marcus ordered. As they retreated deeper into the facility, Alina guided them through her surveillance feed. There's a maintenance shaft 2 levels down that leads to the exterior. I'm marking it on your EUDs. They fought their way through the facility, encountering more of the adapted collectors. Traditional tactics proved increasingly ineffective. These new units seemed designed specifically to resist human neural patterns. They're learning from us, Rivera observed grimly as they descended toward the maintenance shaft. When they finally reached the exterior, their extraction vehicle was waiting, engines running. They piled in under covering fire from resistance fighters positioned nearby. As the vehicle sped away from the collector facility, Marcus examined the data core they'd risked their lives to obtain. The crystalline device pulsed with stored information, secrets that might prove crucial to humanity's survival. What do you think we'll find in there? Kai asked. Marcus stared at the alien technology. Their weaknesses, if we're lucky. Their true purpose, if we're not. Behind them, the Collector Command Center began reconfiguring itself, its architecture physically changing in response to the breach, like an organism adapting to infection. The race against extinction had entered a new phase. The humans had gained valuable intelligence, but the collectors had gained something too. The recognition that their prey could bite back. Sydney Harbor glittered under the moonlight, its iconic opera house standing as a defiant reminder of human creativity amid the collector occupation. Alina observed the alien processing center that had been established where the harbor bridge once stood, its crystalline structures pulsing with harvested energy. Neural disruptors calibrated to maximum sensitivity, she reported, adjusting the settings on her tablet. Around her, 30 resistance fighters prepared their equipment, the latest generation of devices created from their understanding of collector technology. Zara appeared beside her, the young woman's face serious beyond her years. The simulation models show an 84% probability of success, but only if everyone maintains synchronized brain activity during the first phase. Alina nodded. We've trained for this. Each team knows their cognitive assignments. The plan represented humanity's most ambitious counterattack yet. Project Harmony wasn't just about disrupting collector communications. It aimed to completely overload their neural network with a coordinated burst of human creativity and chaos. Marcus approached, accompanied by 2 of the modified collectors they now called outliers. collector rebels who had developed independent consciousness after exposure to human neural patterns. Nexus reports increased activity in the processing center, Marcus said, nodding toward the taller outlier. They're preparing for a resource transfer to orbit. Nexus's voice came through the translation device attached to his armor, the sound strangely melodic despite its artificial origin. The command hierarchy remains unaware of our operation. Their security protocols are focused on conventional threats. Alina checked the time. We move in 5 minutes. Everyone to positions. The assault teams dispersed through the ruins of Sydney, each carrying neural disruptors tuned to specific thought patterns. Some would project mathematical paradoxes, others improvise music, still others abstract visual imagery, all designed to create maximum interference in the collector network. Alina, Zara, and Marcus made their way to their designated position overlooking the processing center. From this vantage point, they could coordinate the neural assault and monitor its effects on the collector operations. Remember when we watched fireworks over this harbor? Marcus asked quietly. Elena smiled despite the tension. New Year's Eve, 2026. Seems like another lifetime. We'll see fireworks here again, he promised. At precisely midnight, Zora activated the master control for Project Harmony. Across Sydney, 30 neural disruptors activated simultaneously, broadcasting human thought patterns directly into the collector communication network. The effect was instantaneous and dramatic. The collector processing center's rhythmic pulsing faltered, then became erratic. Collector drones stopped mid-motion, their coordination shattered by the influx of human neural chaos. Phase 1 successful, Zara reported, monitoring readings on her tablet. Moving to Phase 2, the second wave of resistance fighters activated their disruptors, adding new layers of neural patterns to the assault. The processing center's lights flickered wildly, and several structural components began to physically reconfigure in confused, purposeless patterns. It's working better than we anticipated, Alina said, watching in amazement as the massive collector battalion guarding the facility fell into disarray. Marcus signaled the ground teams to move in. Resistance fighters swarmed toward the facility, targeting the confused collectors with specially designed weapons. For the first time since the invasion began, humans moved with greater coordination than their alien opponents. Teams methodically disabled collector units and secured sections of the processing center. The aliens' superior technology proved useless without their neural network to coordinate its deployment. As Alina monitored the operation from their overlook position, she noticed something unexpected. The crystal structure at the center of the facility was changing color, shifting from its usual blue to a deep purple. That's not part of our plan, she murmured, adjusting her scanner. The energy signature is changing. Before they could react, a pulse of energy erupted from the structure, sweeping across the harbor. The neural disruptors sparked and failed as the pulse passed, leaving resistance fighters suddenly vulnerable. Adaptive countermeasures, Nexus explained, his translator struggling with the concept. The hive is learning. The remaining collectors began to recover, their movements becoming coordinated once more, but the resistance had anticipated this possibility. Zara activated their backup system, a different frequency of neural disruption designed to counter the expected adaptation. We won't have long, she warned as the collectors faltered again. They'll adapt to this pattern too. The ground teams worked with frantic efficiency, securing alien technology and data cores. When the evacuation signal came, they had already achieved their primary objectives, capturing intact collector weapons and vehicles. As their transport vessels sped away from Sydney Harbor, Elena watched the collector facility attempting to restore itself. The operation had been a success, but the cost was becoming clear. Each time they struck the collectors, the aliens adapted more quickly. They're evolving in response to us, she told Marcus and Zara. The question is, can we evolve faster than they can? In the distance, new collector ships descended through the atmosphere, reinforcements called by the facility under attack. But these ships moved differently, their flight patterns less predictable, more human. The enemy was learning. The real battle was just beginning. The captured collector facility had been converted into the Resistance's most secure base, its alien architecture repurposed to serve human needs. In what had once been a processing chamber, Alina and Zara worked alongside Nexus and the other outliers, their combined knowledge creating technologies neither species could have developed alone. The neural interface is stabilizing, Alina reported, monitoring the connection between human brain patterns and collector technology. The device they were building resembled a silver crown, inlaid with pulsing crystalline nodes. Nexus observed with what Alina had come to recognize as curiosity. The outlier's liquid metal features had evolved to express emotions, an adaptation that would have been considered a severe malfunction by the collector hive mind. "Your neural architecture continues to surprise," Nexus commented, his translator conveying a tone of admiration. "The connections you form spontaneously would require generations of directed evolution in our species." Zara made a final adjustment to the device. "That's why they fear us, isn't it? We adapt without planning, without permission." "Precisely," Nexus confirmed. "The Central Intelligence considers unpredictability a form of systemic corruption." Their work was interrupted by an urgent alert. Marcus rushed into the chamber, his expression grim. "Collector strike force incoming. At least 30 ships, including designs we haven't encountered before." Alina checked the base's sensor array. "How did they find us?" "We've been masking our energy signature." "They didn't find us," Nexus stated, moving to examine the sensor data. "They found me." The outliers. On the display, the approaching collector vessels formed a distinctive pattern, a hunting formation specifically designed to track rogue elements of their own kind. "Evacuation Protocol Alpha," Marcus ordered through the base-wide communication system. "All personnel to transport vessels immediately." As alarms blared through the facility, Alina secured their experimental technology, while Zara helped the younger outliers prepare for evacuation. Unlike Nexus, some of them had only recently broken free from the hive mind and still struggled with independent action. "What about you?" Alina asked Nexus. The outlier's liquid metal features shifted in what she now recognized as resolve. "I must create a diversion. My neural signature is what they track most effectively." "No," Alina protested. "We need you. Your knowledge of collector systems is irreplaceable." "What I know, I have shared," Nexus responded. "What I am about to do will provide data even more valuable." Before she could argue further, the first impacts rocked the base. Collector energy weapons had begun targeting the outer defenses. Marcus appeared at the chamber entrance, urging them toward the evacuation route. "The children," Nexus said suddenly, accessing the base's security feeds. "Human young ones in the East Quadrant. Their evacuation path is compromised." The feed showed a group of children, refugees the Resistance had rescued from a collector processing center, trapped by structural damage blocking their route to the transports. Without hesitation, Nexus moved toward the exit. "I will secure their safety." Alina and Zara followed Marcus through the collapsing facility toward the main hangar. Around them, Resistance fighters maintained disciplined evacuation procedures despite the chaos. The lessons of a year fighting the collectors had forged a resilient human response to crisis. When they reached the transport vessels, the loading was nearly complete. Critical technology, research data, and personnel were being efficiently distributed among the ships. "Where's Nexus?" Marcus asked, scanning the crowd. A distant explosion shook the facility. On the security monitors, they watched as Nexus reached the trapped children, using his collector strength to clear the debris blocking their path. As he guided them toward safety, a section of ceiling collapsed. Nexus positioned himself as a shield, his liquid metal form absorbing the impact that would have crushed the human children. Though damaged, he continued leading them toward the evacuation point, even as collector drones breached the facility's defenses and converged on his position. "We have to help him," Alina insisted. Marcus checked the tactical display. "If we delay evacuation, we lose everyone." The impossible choice was resolved by Nexus himself. The outlier established communication through the base system one final time. My existence was purpose-driven efficiency until I encountered human thought. His translated voice came through with unexpected emotion. You taught me something the collectors can never comprehend. Choice. I choose to ensure these young ones survive. On the monitor, they watched Nexus deliver the children to waiting resistance fighters before turning to face the approaching collector drones. Instead of fighting, he interfaced directly with them, forcing a data transfer at close range. He's uploading his experiences, Zara realized. Everything he's learned about individuality, about us. A virus of consciousness, Elena whispered. As the transports launched, carrying the resistance to safety, Nexus's final transmission reached them. The Central Intelligence fears you because you represent true evolution, minds that grow stronger through diversity rather than uniformity. Find it. Change it. That is how humanity will rise. The facility disappeared behind them. The collector ships in pursuit suddenly breaking off their attack, returning to the base as if drawn by some greater priority than pursuit. What did he do? Marcus wondered. Elena studied the sensor readings of the abandoned base. He gave them something they'd never encountered before. A choice. The Resistance's new base was a natural wonder. A vast underground cavern system beneath the Swiss Alps, reinforced with salvaged collector technology. In the central chamber, Elena studied the holographic display of their modified long-range transmitter. The device incorporated elements of collector communication technology with human-designed neural interfaces. The signal is holding steady, she reported to the assembled leadership council. We've been broadcasting for 2 weeks now with no detection by collector monitoring systems. Marcus leaned forward, studying the transmission pattern. And you're certain other species will recognize this as communication rather than random noise. If they've encountered the collectors, they'll recognize the carrier frequency, Elena explained. But the content, our mathematical sequences interwoven with human music, will be indecipherable to the collector network. Zara manipulated the holographic interface, highlighting specific signal patterns. We've created essentially a steganographic message, hiding our communication within patterns that appear as interference to collector systems. The council members, leaders of resistance cells from 6 continents, exchanged skeptical glances. After a year of desperate struggle, hope had become a scarce resource. How long do we wait for a response before trying something else? Asked Commander Adeyemi of the African Alliance. Before Elena could answer, the transmission system emitted a soft chime. Everyone froze as the holographic display shifted, showing an incoming signal on the same frequency they had been using. That's impossible, whispered one of the technicians. We've only been transmitting for 2 weeks, even at light speed. They were already listening, Zara realized, her fingers dancing across the interface to capture and analyze the incoming transmission, waiting for someone to use this channel. The signal resolved into a complex mathematical sequence, followed by what appeared to be navigational coordinates. Yet the truly startling element was the accompanying audio, a haunting, trilling melody unlike anything produced by human vocal cords. Translation algorithms are struggling, Zara reported, but the mathematical component is clear. These are response protocols, instructions for establishing secure communication. Elena implemented the protocols, modifying their transmission parameters according to the instructions. The holographic display flickered, then stabilized into a new configuration. Within it appeared a visual that stunned everyone into silence. A being unlike anything they had ever seen came into focus. Its form was avian in basic structure, with iridescent feather-like appendages and 4 delicate arms. But where a bird would have a face, this being had a mesmerizing arrangement of compound eyes surrounding a speaker-like vocal apparatus. "We receive your call," came the translated voice, melodic despite the artificial conversion. "We are the Lyrans. We too have faced the consumption." Elena stepped forward, addressing the alien communication. "We are humans, from Earth. The collectors invaded our world 1 year ago. The Lyran's compound eyes shifted in what might have been surprise. You resist after only one cycle. Remarkable. Our world fell in 3 cycles before the survivors could organize effective countermeasures. We've discovered that our neural patterns disrupt their network, Elena explained. We've managed to capture their technology and adapt it. The creator species theorized that such a mind might evolve, the Lyran responded. After 700 worlds, it seems they have finally encountered their antithesis. The transmission continued for hours as humans and Lyrans exchanged information. The alien refugees explained that they had maintained hidden outposts for centuries, monitoring collector movements while developing technologies to shield themselves from detection. Most crucially, they shared specifications for advanced shielding technology that could protect entire installations from collector sensors. The designs were unlike anything humans had conceived, not focused on blocking signals, but rather on redirecting perception, creating what the Lyrans called attention blindness in the collector neural network. As the communication concluded, the Lyran representative made an unprecedented offer. We have monitored the approach of the Genesis vessel. Its arrival presents both terminal danger and unique opportunity. We will dispatch a delegation to your world. Together, perhaps we can achieve what neither of our species could alone. After the transmission ended, the council chamber erupted in excited discussion. For the first time since the invasion, humanity had found allies, survivors who had endured collector destruction and developed technologies specifically designed to counter them. Elena studied the Lyran technical specifications, already seeing how they could be integrated with human innovations. Nexus was right, she told Marcus quietly. The collectors have been so focused on uniformity that they never considered species might cooperate, might combine their different evolutionary advantages. Outside the chamber, resistance members gathered as news spread. The Genesis vessel still approached, the greatest threat Earth had ever faced. But humanity no longer stood alone against the darkness. How many other species do you think are out there? Zara wondered. Still fighting, still hiding. Elena looked at the transmission system, now calibrated to the new secure protocols the Lyrans had provided. Let's find out, she said, activating the system once more. This time, their message would reach further, strengthened by Lyran technology, and carrying a simple but powerful message. We are not alone. We are not defeated. Join us. The Genesis vessel eclipsed the moon as it entered Earth orbit, a construct of such impossible scale that it defied human comprehension. Its surface was a mesmerizing tapestry of technology and organic components that constantly shifted and reconfigured. Millions watched from Earth's surface as humanity's moment of truth arrived. In the command center beneath the Alps, representatives from 7 different species coordinated the most ambitious operation in galactic history. The Lyrans had been joined by the crystalline Talon, the amphibious Melosians, and others, all survivors of collector harvesting, all drawn by humanity's unprecedented call to unity. Final system check complete, Elena announced, her voice steadied despite the weight of responsibility. Neural interface networks are synchronized across all teams. Marcus studied the tactical display showing their small fleet of hybrid vessels, collector ships modified with technology from all their allied species. The diversionary teams are in position. The moment the Genesis vessel's defenses focus on them, our infiltration team launches. Zara made final adjustments to the neural amplifier she would wear during the mission. Unlike previous versions, this one incorporated elements from all their allied species, Lyran perception filters, Talon crystalline amplifiers, and human neural patterns as the core template. The simulations show a 68% probability of success, she reported, higher than any of us expected. Numbers can't measure determination, Marcus replied, checking his own equipment. The infiltration team consisted of Elena, Zara, Marcus, and representatives from each allied species, each chosen for their unique abilities and knowledge. Their plan was audacious but simple. While diversionary forces engaged the Genesis vessel's external defenses, The infiltration team would enter through a maintenance conduit identified by former outliers. Their goal was to reach the central intelligence that controlled all collector operations throughout the galaxy. As the countdown to launch reached its final minutes, Alina addressed the assembled group. For a year, we fought not just for our survival, but for the right to determine our own path. Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for every world that has faced extinction at the hands of the collectors. The infiltration vessel launched silently, its hybrid technology rendering it invisible to conventional collector sensors. As they approached the colossal Genesis vessel, diversionary attacks began precisely as planned. The vessel's defenses activated, focusing outward while the infiltration team slipped through the identified access point. Inside, the Genesis vessel was unlike any collector structure they had encountered. The corridors pulsed with bioluminescent light, and the architecture seemed almost dreamlike, less mechanical, more fluid and intuitive. "This place feels alive," Alina whispered as they navigated deeper into the structure. The Lyran representative, Kelly, trilled softly. According to our ancient records, the Genesis vessels were the first collector constructs, created by the progenitors themselves. As they approached the central core, resistance became more determined. Specialized collector guardians emerged from chambers, their forms more elaborate and their tactics more adaptive than any they had faced before. The team responded with coordinated efficiency, each species compensating for the other's vulnerabilities. When they finally reached the central chamber, they found not the massive computational array they expected, but a serene space centered around a single crystalline pod. Within it floated a being of startling beauty, humanoid in basic form, but with features of extraordinary complexity and perfection. The last progenitor, gasped Talion, the crystalline being representing the Talon. "We believe them extinct for millions of cycles." The ancient being's eyes opened, regarding them with immediate awareness. When it spoke, the sound manifested directly in their minds. 7 species united. It communicated, its thoughts conveying both surprise and profound weariness. "In all my eons of observation, this has never occurred." Zara stepped forward, her neural amplifier resonating with the progenitor's mental patterns. "We've come to end the harvesting of worlds." The collectors were created to preserve life. The progenitor responded, images of a dying civilization accompanying its thoughts. "My people faced extinction. We created the collectors to gather resources, to ensure our survival. But your people are gone," Alina said gently. "The collectors continue their mission without purpose, destroying civilizations that could have been your legacy." The progenitor's mental presence conveyed deep sorrow. "When isolation corrupted my consciousness, I lost sight of our original purpose. The collectors became extensions of my fear rather than my hope." Zara, whose unique neural patterns allowed the clearest communication with the ancient being, made a decision. Instead of attacking, she removed her neural amplifier and approached the crystalline pod. "Let me show you what we've learned," she said, placing her hands on the crystal surface. "Let me show you what your legacy could become." The connection formed instantly, a merging of minds across species and eons. Through Zara, the progenitor experienced the vibrant diversity of Earth's cultures, the resilience of the Lyrans, the crystalline harmony of the Talon, the fluid adaptability of the Melosians. Most importantly, it experienced cooperation across evolutionary divides, species with different perceptions, different strengths, creating something greater than any could achieve alone. Throughout the Genesis vessel, systems began to reconfigure. Across Earth orbit, collector ships ceased their attack patterns and entered standby modes. Through their neural link, Zara conveyed the progenitor's new directive to the infiltration team. The mission of preservation will continue, but through cooperation rather than consumption. The collectors will become builders instead of destroyers, helping to restore what they once harvested. As the infiltration team returned to Earth, they witnessed the beginning of a transformation. The Genesis vessel, once an instrument of planetary destruction, began reconfiguring itself into a platform for restoration. Collector ships throughout the solar system initiated new behavioral protocols, their fearsome harvesting technology repurposed for healing damaged ecosystems. 6 months later, Elena stood with Marcus and a recovered Zara on the observation deck of Unity Station, the first joint human-alien construction in Earth orbit. Below them, Earth showed signs of renewal where collector technology now assisted in restoring ravaged landscapes. Representatives from 23 species now populated the station, with more arriving each month as the Alliance's communication network expanded through former collector territory. "The progenitor asked me something interesting yesterday," Zara said, watching a shuttle carrying Leyran agricultural specialists approach Earth. "It asked why humans succeeded where so many other species failed against the collectors." "What did you tell it?" Marcus asked. Zara smiled. "That we're too stubborn to accept impossibility, too creative to follow only one solution, and too compassionate to fight only for ourselves." Elena watched as former collector vessels, now piloted by mixed-species crews, departed for distant worlds to spread the message of alliance and assist other recovering civilizations. Humanity didn't just rise against alien destruction, she reflected. We rose beyond it, bringing the entire galaxy with us. In the vast chamber at the heart of the Genesis vessel, now orbiting a devastated world being prepared for restoration, the last progenitor contemplated the unexpected evolution before it. For eons, it had directed the collectors to preserve life through control and consumption. Now it witnessed a far more successful strategy: preservation through diversity, adaptation, and cooperation. The humans called it harmony, the complex beauty that emerges when different notes play together rather than alone. After millions of years of existence, the ancient being had finally discovered the true path to survival, taught by the most unlikely of teachers. A young species from a small blue planet who refused to accept extinction as their fate.